Okay, so if you're ready, I'm ready too. Thanks for coming. And today I would like to tell you why I hate TED Talks and why I think that the moth.org is better, and I will encourage you to storify your teaching. Well, first of all, I need to tell you that I very rarely dedicate any talk to anybody, but I dedicate the talk to my father. He passed away 5 years ago during the pandemic time, and even if he wasn't, his death wasn't caused by COVID, I really kind of had a hard time because I couldn't see him in the last his days. But then, quite shockingly to me, when I was to pick up his things from the hospital, they let me go parading through the whole ward just like that. And that's that tiny story of my life, which I will also share more of. And why I'm mentioning my dad, Zenek, because he told me stories. And he told me the stories of the forester guys. Don't know where he took his stories from, but he told me multitude of stories of how the animals behave. And one day he told me how he rescued one of the small deers which were like entangled in some wires in the middle of the forest. And I will never forget it, right? And that kind of made me envy of him, that he could tell the stories. Kind of, he wasn't a great storyteller, because when he started one story, then he went through others, and then everybody was waiting, like, okay, so what next? And then he told all kinds of anecdotes. They seem never to finish, and I love that. And later on, I had such a great feeling that I'm not good enough storyteller. And when I went on some public occasions, I was hoping to enchant people with my stories, but I wasn't that good, and I don't feel I'm any brilliant. However, whenever I come to classroom, and probably this is one of the reasons why I became as a teacher, I tell the stories. And one of my most painful memories of my childhood was the story with the Holy Grail of last regime Poland, the toilet paper. And that was the day when I got spanked by my dad for the first time and the last time. And as many of you know, as the toilet paper was scarce, we had some tiny coupons to get some assigned number of toilet rolls to buy. And one day there was a rumor that the toilet paper arrived to town. Only one store, but there were two queues, two lines from the opposite sides. So my dad took me to the store. I was around 8 years old, maybe 9 years old, and he got me some allotted some assigned money to buy the paper. And he was standing on the opposite side of the store, meters apart, and I on the other end. And I was approaching the counter. I noticed a beautiful, shiny, leather-bound notepad with elegant pages and a pen. And you know what happened next? No toilet paper from me. And when I proudly presented the notepad to my dad, well, then he took the belt. And it wasn't really painful, but rather the feeling that I wasn't responsible enough, that I couldn't be trusted, that I failed my dad. was a huge driving force. And to this day, I think I'm doing anything to anyone to be useful and to be responsible. Of course, I always fail in some way, but I do my best. So that's the holy grail of my childhood. But now I would like to tell you some other stories. And obviously, for the past 20 years, people like us were amazed by TED Talks. And initially I liked TED Talks a lot, and I used them in the classroom. In the past conferences, we saw a lot of talks based on TED Talks, how to use them, because the ideas are worth spreading, right? But then I even took up the course book that included essentially TED Talks. But upon watching more and more TED Talks, I realized that very rarely you can find something true, something remarkable, something really touching and really worth spreading. Rather than that, the TED Talks were full of commercial ads and self-promoting and pompous speeches of people who simply wanted to get my wallet. And whenever I showed all kinds of TED Talks, I saw the faces of my students who said, like, nobody's speaking like that. Like, that's something unnatural. That's something strange. And of course, I told them, yeah, but you need to rehearse, you need to prepare, you need to be professional, you need to use certain words, keywords. But for new generation, especially in the last years, TED Talks were not really attractive. And I was looking for a source in which I could find some real, authentic stories, real, authentic people. And I found the Moth several, like four or five years ago, and I got hooked up totally. And the moment I started listening to them, I realized that for me, this is the ultimate solution. And of course, well, to tell you the truth, not all Moth stories are really worth spreading. And some of them are also about self-promotion. But so far, it's only tiny fraction of that. I will tell you what the Moth is. The Moth is the project based in the United States, which promotes sharing stories, telling stories, and these are the stories told by just people like you and I. And of course, the stories are polished a bit, so the structure is given, and the storytellers are given some initial training into telling the stories. But once you listen at least one Moth story, you will realize that unlike TED Talks, they are about true dilemmas of everyday people, and very often dilemmas of people that you will probably never meet. People from Ethiopia, people from I probably not meet many people from like original people from the United States that I will have some kind of deeper connection. I will hear about the problems that they encountered when they were queuing to water fountain, right? But a special water fountain only for the colored people, right? And there's a story about that when one of the ladies tells of the trauma when she had to go miles to only one store when there was a one water fountain just to give it to his kid. The Moth has got the website. It's very easily searchable, and I would like to suggest you some of the stories that will bring a lot of value to you. One of the stories is the story of Cynthia Riggs, and when you scan the code, you will get to it. I would like to I would like you to hear just one fragment of it. We don't have the loudspeakers. I hope that you will. Oh, you've got it. Okay, wonderful. Okay. I will try to plug it quickly. Cheers, I'm fine. Only if it's charged. No, it's not charged, I guess. Is it? Okay. Okay. Oh, the connection. Yeah, but it's not charged. So, oh, yeah. I get. Okay. Okay, perfect. I'm not really kind of. Okay. Let's leave it. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's leave it. Let's leave it. I will try to play to you a fragment of the story, and of course, I will not play it till the end. Cynthia Riggs, 90, almost 90-year-old lady is telling the story of her life.
I was a clueless 18-year-old student at Antioch College. They have a work-study program, and they found me a job at Scripps Oceanographic Institution sorting plankton. And I got to the laboratory, and most of my fellow plankton sorters were men, and they'd been sorting plankton too long. They were looking for a distraction, and I was it. So they started playing all these practical jokes on me, like putting slimy things in my bicycle seat or nailing my lab door shut. And I didn't really know how to deal with this. But there was an elderly man there who'd been in the Second World War, and he took pity on me. He was 28. And he somehow got my tormentors off my back without making things worse. Well, I started writing notes to him on the paper towels next to my microscope. They were just simple notes, and I wrote them in code. Just A equals B, B equals C. Well, my job lasted about 4 months, and I came back here and I forgot about it. In January 2012, his name suddenly popped into my mind, and I thought, well, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. So I Googled his name, and I didn't find it. So I didn't think about it anymore. Well, 2 weeks later, I got a package in the mail with his name on it. He must have been thinking about me the same time I was thinking about him. So I opened the package, and in it were all those paper towels that he'd saved for 62 years. And in it was a new note in our old code. And when I decoded it, the note said, I have never stopped loving you.
And it's just the beginning, and it gets better every second. And when you go to the website, they've got the extra subpage where you can see actually the photos, the tape script, the interviews, the follow-up story, and some other talks of Cynthia Riggs. And if you go to the YouTube, you will see their weddings. Didn't say that. Just listen to that. And for such stories, I believe that the Moth is much better than TED Talks, and you'll see all kinds of stories. Some of them are not really appropriate, I guess, for most of public schools, such as mother of quadriplegic boy who on the 18th birthday really wanted to spend a night with a girl. And then the mother drives him all through the States. I mean, that's just kind of provocative story that could tell you how big the scope of the stories is. Probably not all of them are for the public school youth, that's true. But I've got to tell you that after listening to such stories, whenever I open up my account on Spotify, I can see the blue dot, the new podcast, the new recording. I'm shaking with excitement. And you know what? I really can't wait when I be driving and I'll see the new episode of the podcast from themoth.org. So I told you why the Moth is better than TED Talks. The only one more reason why this is better, it clearly shows that sharing is caring, but also that sharing is scary. That the talks are really full of emotions, and you cannot just go numb, indifferent after listening to them. And that is also the case with one more story that I encourage you to watch. Is about Nobel Prize winner in biology, Sir Paul Nurse, who talks about how DNA played a major role in his life. He's also genetics scientist, but the way that DNA played a vital role in his life is totally unrelated to his field of study. And such stories I listen to with my students, and I use them on many different ways. And I would really like to skip through all such probably things that you know, right? Because this basically what you can do with any script, with any video, just listening, detail hand, true or false. Now with the era of AI, you can simply feed the script to any bot, and it will prepare you some extra activities. I tend not to do it. I'd rather go some old-fashioned way, asking students to listen and just analyze how the story goes, how it's evolving, how we can also learn from that. Also, we've got some really kind of golden vocabulary nuggets inside those stories. Some natural language, some original language that probably is not used, is not taught in our course books. That's why I also use that, and we decide why some stories are told in present tenses, why some stories are told in past tenses, right? And because it all matters. And when it comes to speaking, this is something that I used a lot, like retelling the story from the Polish perspective. Would it be at all possible to have such a story in Poland? Most of the storytellers are from the US, but also from all kinds of other countries. The nearest place where you can attend Moth Slam is in London, and I really would love to one day go there and to throw my name into the hat and hope to be selected to speak and to share and to be scared. When it comes to writing, this is something that we do simply to personalize learning a bit. This is also connected with some kind of plot sequence analysis. Okay, so basically, those stories are so intensive that sometimes we just listen to them and just ask them to write the events in the story, and then we compare. Some students put only 5 events, whereas some of them put 10. Why it is so, and why it matters, and also how it reflects some individual approach to listening. I told you about extras, and I find them really stimulating, so I can show them a photo and ask them to predict what the story might be about. Or maybe when you've got the post-story interview with the speaker, when the speaker tells the original story when it was unpolished, when it was just raw, and then we can compare the version that was simply improved. And through this, you can seriously learn some good storytelling. And I believe that just through listening in a kind of a passive way, I get to be a better storyteller. I would like you also to think of just one more thing. This is about the critical thinking bit, and this is what we do sometimes in the middle of the story, when I pause for a while and ask what would be next. Would it be the same if it was told by a woman, if it was told by a transgender person, if it was by a person of a different ethnic origin, and so on and so on. And a good point is that all of the recordings are themed. So, for example, when you've got a theme family, you could have actually 5 stories on the same topic. I didn't do it yet, but I'm planning this fall to assign students a theme and then compare the stories at home, not at the lesson, because it takes a lot of time. I already mentioned you the Sir Paul Nurse family trees can be dangerous, but I would like to ask you, what are your stories and how you storify your lessons? And I'm pretty sure that in the 21st century, you cannot think of teaching without the context. And the stories that we tell give the context to our teaching. And probably when you've got some grammar point, you've got your beloved ways of teaching certain grammar structures. One of the stories is the one that I call Milena from a sport camp. And that's of course, true story about a girl named Milena. And we were at the sports camp together when I was 17. And I had some idea that she might have fancied me, but I was a shy person. And of course, at the very last discotheque at the sports camp, we kissed.
Oh my God.
I mean, then it was, oh my God, but of course, I wonder if only I had the courage to kind of approach her earlier. So obviously, telling the story and giving the background to grammar is something that sticks, right? And when I'm teaching when I'm teaching future simple, I tell them the story of an old lady who was crossing the street, and I quickly shouted, "I will help you!" Right? And of course, it's all to talk about the context, and students later on rather remember the old lady on the pedestrian crossing than the term future simple, which I think is kind of cool, kind of good. So I bet you've got your own stories. And I bet that you will also encourage your students to tell the stories. Maybe some of them will take part in some public speaking competitions. This year, it was the 5th competition that I ran in my powiat, in my region. And since I'm getting more and more inspired, thanks to the moth, this time it was the most powerful words in English. Tell me a story, right? So this is the way that I also encourage people to tell stories. When it comes to our IATEFL conference, remember that this year we also had a bit of storified topic, right? Learning from mistakes, how every challenge is an opportunity. Present from your perspective, share your story. And if you only would like to listen to the talks and stories of students, I guess they are just now uploaded like a few seconds before. So you will be the first people, apart from those who took part in this competition, who can hear every story, every speech of the young contestants, along with fantastic mini plenary from Grzegorz Śpiewak, right? So this is something to absolutely remember. It's getting higher and higher, and I tell you, we are trying to learn from our mistakes and make it every year better and better. Thank you very much, and have a story-worthy week. Thanks a lot. If you would like to get the presentation, please email me, and I will be so glad to help. Thanks a lot.